Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's evening here in the South. No matter where you are, I hope you're having a great day. And today we are going to do a little twist, something a little bit different on the Fairhaven. So as most of you know, the Fairhaven has a front weave panel. And let me grab this one here. I did this one recently. This is the Fairhaven. It just does not have that front weave panel. Instead, I ended up cutting two backs, one for the back and one for the front, skipped the weave panel, and just continued on with the rest of the pattern. We're going to do the same thing tonight, only we are going to bring these straps all the way down to the base here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. So I took the liberty of doing a couple of things ahead of time, just to kind of help speed this up. These are things that you have seen me do before. I went ahead and made my two interior slip pockets. So we have those ready to go. I also went ahead and added my zipper to my zipper pocket panels. So there's the back. Here we have the front. So those are done. And I cannot see comments. Let me see if I can get some. Here we go. Lane, hello. All right. I think everybody's starting to get on. The other thing that I did was I fused some Decovil Heavy on the base of the bag. And as you can see, it does not go to the ends, because we fuse the rest of the Decovil after we attach the bottom to the front and back. So I actually have my ironing board set up here. We're going to do that tonight. We're going to get it all fused together. All right. Hey, Barb. I'm so glad to see you live tonight. So this is what we're going to be using. It is a faux leather, and I've got it in 3 colors. I sell it on my website. This is the coral and black. We have black and white, and we have a black and a hot pink as well. So go ahead and check that out. See if you can find it. This is going to be the front and the back. Hello, Linda. So I have my lining pieces, of course, cut. I have my upper lining cut ready to go. I have my zipper overlay cut ready to go. I have my upper side pieces with the Decovil on there. And I also have my side pieces with the Decovil on there. Now, I decided I was going to use Decovil Heavy instead of Decovil Light for the body of the bag. This is a fairly thin faux, and I really wanted to give the bag some stability. The one that I showed you just a minute ago, I used Decovil Heavy for that, so I wanted to go ahead and do the same thing with this. So we've got that fused and ready to go. And then the other thing I did was made my key fob. And then on these handles, if you refer back, and I will link it once tonight, once the live is over, but there is a video that I did, and it was called chain weaving, and I showed how to do these handles. And essentially, it is the handle and the strap connector all in one. It's just one long piece. So I cut mine, I believe I cut mine 40 inches. Let's see. Actually, I cut mine 46 inches. And then I measured up 10.5 inches from each side. And if you refer back to the video, you'll see that's where I did my little cutouts. And then I folded it. I'll show you how to fold it in that video. I then top stitched where the handles are going to be. So you're actually going to hold the handles is where I top stitched. And I stopped right before I got to this base here. So here's where we're going to end up stitching up to on the bag. We're going to stitch just over this. So you'll see that's where I stopped. And I know it's black. It's probably kind of hard to see. But that's where I stopped my top stitching. It's right there. Okay. So I'm going to move you down and we're going to go ahead and start putting this together. I'll move all this out of the way. And hopefully I can get a better angle on this than I did the last live. I think the last live was a little bit rough. So let's see what we got here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And I can zoom you in a little bit. Not too much. All right, does that look good? Not, let me know, and I will try to make some adjustments. Move this over just a bit. Okay. And here we go. So what I want to do is go ahead and attach my straps first. So I'm going to find the center of my front and my back panels. So again, I just cut two fronts essentially, or excuse me, two backs, and I'm skipping the weave part. Okay, so from here, I'm going to take one of my handle pieces and put some double-sided tape on the back so I can go ahead and hold it in place as I sew. So I'm going to use some 1/2 inch. We're just going to stick it on here right in the middle. Do the same with this one. All right, and going to from the actual center here, measure over 3 inches and then place my handle. Now, when I do this, I actually want to place my handle on a little bit of an angle because I want to follow the angle of the bag. I think that if we put this straight up and down, that's not going to look right. So we really want to place it at the same angle here, okay? So if I go 3 inches from the center, actually, let's make it 2.5 inches from the center at the very top here. That's going to make it, let's measure from this side here. 2.5 is going to be, all right. So let's make it 2.5 inches from the side, each side, okay? I'm going to put my ruler on there. I'm just going to peel this off. And we will stick this on. Now I'm going to line the bottom of the connector with the bottom of the bag. I'm just going to go all the way up. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. 2.5 inches. Okay, so what I'm going to do from here is go ahead and stitch, starting and stopping in the same hole that I started and stopped in when I stitched up. I want to make sure everything matches up good. When I'm through, I am going to place a rivet here just to kind of add a little extra something to hold it. Hello, Barbara. We have 2 Barbaras on here tonight. And I just want to make sure I stop in exactly the same place here. Don't backstitch. We will trim those off and then we'll tie them off in the back. And do the same thing on the other side. So for those of you who don't know, I am going to be leaving for Italy in 1 week, and I am super excited. And I'm mostly going to source leathers for y'all. So that should be a very exciting trip. We're going to the Tuscany or Toscano region of Italy. And I already talked to some folks over there and have some appointments set up, and it's going to be fantastic. So very exciting stuff. Pennsylvania. Hello, Sheila. Yes, it is very cool. Diana said it's very cool going to Italy. Yes, it is. And I'm really excited about these leathers. I actually tested some of the leathers that I received from them already. I got little samples, and I was able to sew on my domestic machine, y'all. So I'm really hoping that I can bring these to you, and everybody can use them. Everybody can have a chance to use leather without having to buy a whole hide. This is going to be enough for you to do a project. It's going to be fantastic, I hope. So Linda is asking, Chris, are you a self-made designer or did you go to design school? You are so talented. Well, thank you very much. Actually, I am a CPA by trade. I just retired. My husband and I sold our CPA practice. And so, no, I don't have any formal training. I've taken a few classes here and there, but nothing formal. And as a matter of fact, last night, my husband said to me, why didn't you go to design school? And I said, you know what? That's a good question. It has definitely been my passion. So Diana says that would be great to try the leather you source. Yes, absolutely. I think it's going to be really great. I'm excited about it. Okay, don't backstitch. And actually, I have a little piece of it over there where I folded it over 4 times and stitched it on my domestic. If y'all want, I can go get it and you can kind of take a sneak peek. All right, one more, and then we're going to do the other side. So here in the South, it's getting to be warmer. Actually, it was about 80 degrees today. And so spring is definitely in the air. It is pollen season. And if anybody is from the South on here, you know what that means. That means that everything is yellow around here. The pollen falls from the pine trees and it is just awful. It's almost like snow. It's terrible. So we're all suffering from sneezing and allergies. But hopefully by the time I get back, it will be over and we can start going outside and living again. But the reason why I'm telling you all that is because this is kind of a spring bag, like a spring color to me. And I think that it's going to be great for springtime. So Lane says, yes, please. Yes, a sneak peek. Yes, please. Okay. Give me 1 second. I can see it from here. Now, I got a lot of samples, but here is some of them. These two have got like this, obviously like a crocodile print in it, but it also almost has these other, I don't know what you call them, almost like circle looking things. I don't know. Can you all see that okay? And I literally folded this over 4 times and I sewed it on my domestic machine. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? So like if you were going to do a strap, you know, or handle, or even if you just were sewing seams together and they got a little thick. And I mean, it is like the temper on it is fantastic. This one's actually a little thinner. And then this, I know it's white, but look at that. Isn't that pretty? And it's so, the temper is just fantastic. So anyway, I had taken, I mean, they sent me a bunch of samples, but I took just a few of them to see if I could sew with it on my domestic machine. I wanted to see the thickness and the temper, what I needed to really be concentrating on. And anyway, I think that is going to be fantastic. Lane, I'm just a couple hours south of you and the pollen is so awful. I know it is, isn't it? It is just, this time of year is just, it is so hard to be outside. It's so nice. I mean, the weather is gorgeous. You're excited because you want to get outside and you just can't even walk. But I think I saw somebody said they'd rather take pollen than snow. I think I might agree with you on that one. Because I know I have lived in snow before. I grew up in New Hampshire, so I know all about snow. But I think it's different as a kid than as an adult. Yes, so hopefully when I get back, I'm going to have some fantastic leathers like that to share with y'all. Now, they may have to be shipped to me, so it might take a little while to get here. The shipping has been terrible. I have so many things on the way that just haven't got here yet. So hopefully soon I will have a lot of new things for y'all. It's not for lack of trying, I can promise. And if you're going to Sew Magical in Nashville, definitely want to stop by my booth and see me, because we will have, hopefully, a lot of this leather. We'll have maker's kits. We're going to have all kinds of good stuff. I will be teaching there as well. So if you are able to go, keep your eye out for when those class signups start. All right, so again, I'm measuring 2.5 inches from the side. And I am measuring from the side because I want that angle to follow the bag. And then we're going to stitch. And it looks like I should have come down a little bit further. So when I did my stitching, I didn't measure, I should have. And on this one here, it looks like I should have taken a few extra stitches because This one comes down to about here, where this one's a little further down. So in order to keep the distance the same behind here, I'm just going to take a couple extra stitches on this one before I actually sew this on the bag. If that makes sense. So I'm just going to start in the same hole that I started and just take a few. About 3. Do the same thing on the other side. This is such a versatile pattern, the Fairhaven. And we now have it in print. So I am working on getting all of the patterns in print form. My testers know it because they are feeling it. So everybody thank Bob Frangella. She's on tonight and she's one of the testers and she's working very, very hard to get these patterns done and out to y'all. She's also testing one right now that hopefully will be released beginning of April. Brand new bag, and it is a, let's say it's a large tote bag, but it has a unique lining in it. So it's going to be actually perfect for spring. And in the summer, I have a second version of that same bag that's going to be releasing that's just going to be smaller. So if you don't want a large tote bag, just hang tight. I haven't forgot about you. The people who like the smaller bags, it's going to be a crossbody style. So all I'm doing is tying these off in the back here. I was a little bit, didn't quite stitch down far enough on my handles. So I'm just making sure that I do. I'm just going to stick these behind my tape. Good evening, Chris from the UK. Mandy. Thank you so much for joining us, Mandy. What time is it in the UK? Let's see, we're right now about 8 o'clock Eastern time. I think you're what, 5 hours maybe ahead of us? All right, this is not cooperating. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and stitch this on. Just going to take my threads, kind of cut them off, and then use the double-sided tape to hold them all down. I don't really like cutting them off super short if I can help it, because these knots will come out with this Tech 70 thread. Okay, that's a lot more even. It's 1 a.m. Oh my goodness. You should be sleeping. And I'm glad you're watching. But hopefully it's not because you have insomnia. Whoops, I'm stuck. There we go. All right, and I just want to start and stop in the same hole. I'm going to tie these off. The good thing about this bag too is that when you skip the weave or woven panel in the front, it actually is a pretty quick sew. So I'm just tying these off because I don't want any kind of back stitching to show on the handles. And I will say that this week, one of the things I've been doing, which was not on my list to do, but I just couldn't help it, is of course, going to Italy, I could not take a faux leather bag, right? I mean, that's like blasphemy. You can't do that over there. Not when you're going to search for fine Italian leathers. So I made myself a leather bag, and it's kind of a hip bag / crossbody. You can wear it either way. And y'all, I really like it. I made it out of some black leather, and it came out so good. And so I think it's going to be a future pattern. All right, we have one more, and then we will put the base on. Can we see it? Ooh. You can. Y'all are funny. It really turned out well. It's like one of my favorite patterns, I think. The Alley B was my favorite, but I think this one might be my favorite now. Not this one, the one I'm about ready to show you. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet. So y'all need to, since I like to try to name my patterns after the people who inspired me. But nobody really inspired me on this one. This is just me coming up with it. So if you can think of a name, you need to put it in the comments so that I can kind of consider. Even if you're watching this video after the fact, leave it in the comments what you think I should name this bag that I'm about to show you. Okay, let me get it. It's right here. So this is all genuine leather. It has got this cool twist lock. And just to show you, I've got my gauge in here, my leather gauge, so that I can tell the thickness of leathers. I have our passports and our immunization cards in here. My phone will fit in here. I have a space for credit cards in here. Then in addition, in the back here, well, I say in the back, in the zipper section, it's big enough for our international driver's licenses, both of ours. And then that's where I'm putting my money because it's zipped. So it'll be nice and secure. So, and then it can either be worn like around your waist as a waist bag, or you can wear it as a crossbody. And the whole idea for me is I was really wanting to wear it underneath my clothes, like underneath my sweater or my jacket, because I don't want somebody to get whatever. one thing I am going to say is that this is edge coated, this edge right here. And on the inside, the flap, of course, is double, but the gusset I actually left as the raw leather. So like the gusset here is raw leather. I do have a piece of linen on this here, this space here. And there's a little bit of binding going just around this section right here to hold it together. And then by taking a whip stitch here, it kind of brought this in on the sides. So anyway, y'all got more than a sneak peek, but I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be a fantastic, exciting pattern. Can't wait. So, Barb, be ready for this one. Probably this summer. Hey, Cheryl. The Italian. Yeah, that is a good name for it. That might be it. Or something like that. Something that has to do with Italy. It has to be because, I mean, that's what I made it for. Thank you, Lainey. Saying the bag is beautiful. Okay, so let's continue on with this. We've got our front and back pieces. I'm going to take my bottom piece and we're going to go ahead and clip and stitch this on. All right, and using 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we are going to turn and we're going to top stitch on the bottom part. So turn this down, make sure your seam allowance is going towards the bottom. I'm going to pull it tight and we're just going to top stitch here. Okay, and we're going to do exactly the same thing for the other side. So 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to top stitch. Make sure our seam allowance is pointing towards the bottom of the bag. I agree, Barbara. And it's got to have an Italian name. We've got to come up with something. Toscano. Is that how you say Tuscany in Italian? Toscano. Okay. So from here, we need to go ahead and infuse our Decaville. Now, again, remember I told you I'm using Decaville Heavy for this whole thing. So the pieces are going to just barely, it's actually good that this is black, you can see. We're going to just barely kind of butt them up against each other. Okay, just like that. Make sure that looks good. So I'm going to swing you around because I think that this part kind of gives people problems, and I want to kind of go over. And usually I use my heat press, but I'm not going to use that today because I want to talk about how to get this on. So I'm just going to move you and twist you. Okay, you can kind of see my ironing board there. Move the camera up just a little bit. Okay, so what I want to do, again, is just barely butt this up. So I'm leaving about just a scant 1/8 of an inch seam allowance between the bottom piece of Decaville and this piece here. And then I'm just going to kind of start in the middle, and I'm going to press down as I'm holding this on. And then just kind of move it over. Now, because you have a seam here that the Decaville's kind of trying to go over, I think is the problem area. So what I usually try to do when I'm doing this with my iron is to get kind of this top section on first. Don't want to touch my iron or the vinyl with my iron. And then I'm going to run the iron along this seam here. So make sure you press as you and then what I'm going to do is take the iron and just kind of run it along this seam, almost at an angle to kind of get it in. That's what I've done. And then go ahead and press the rest of this. So Robin says, hi, in Italy, you don't use the word genuine leather. It's known in the industry that genuine leather is not the best full grain. Okay. Full grain split, miles, anything but genuine. Okay. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate you telling me that. Okay. So before I do the next piece, just make sure all this is on really good. Feels like it is. And by leaving that little 1/8 of an inch, it's going to allow this bag to fold up beautifully and give us a nice crisp edge. Okay. So let's go ahead and stick the other one on. Get my deco here. We're actually, I don't want to say nervous, but we're a little, I guess you could say nervous about going over there. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be fine, but yeah, you hate to go over there and sound like you don't know what you're talking about, or I know that the language, the things, how we say things is not always the same way everybody else does in the world. So this is obviously takes a little bit of time here, but if you just take the time to press as you go, you know, when I say press, you're pushing you're pushing on the iron, okay? And sometimes even when I do this, I do have a few areas that pop up a little bit, but it's usually not major. No steam. I have no water in my iron. And I'm just going to run the iron right along this seam here. Okay, and then go ahead and finish it up. All right, so from here, I want to go ahead and sew my sides together. Get everything attached. We should be well on our way. Okay. So now we have it all ready to go. I'm going to turn you back around. Bring you down a little bit. Sorry, y'all. I know that this can be a little much with the motion. Okay. So now we have everything fused, and by having a slight area there, it allows this bag to sit nicely. Okay, so we're going to set this aside and get our sides and our upper sides. We're going to clip the upper accent piece to the side. Sorella. Ooh, I like that. Sorella. Lane, I like that a lot. Bella, that would be a great one too. Yeah. Yeah. See, I knew if I asked y'all, you'd come up with some good names. That's like the hardest part for me is naming the bags. My husband comes up with a lot of the names. He's good at that. Or like I say, I just name them after whoever inspired me. But I like those. Sorella or Bella. Good job, y'all. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is make sure I do not stitch over my deco because then it's going to be hard to turn. So we're going to leave the seam allowance going up towards the upper part of the bag. We're just going to turn this over, and then we're going to top stitch on this accent piece. All right. Ta-da. Now I do want to go ahead and put rivets on the top of these handles. I brought my rivet press over here, but I didn't bring my punch. So I'm going to run and get that. And in an effort to be even here, I'm going to measure down I measured down 1.5 inches. And we will put right in the center, 1.5 inches down. Put a rivet. So has anyone been, I know, Barb, you've been to Italy. Has anybody else been to Italy? South Louisiana. Hello, Cheryl. Cheryl, are you suffering from pollen craziness right now, like we are in Georgia? It's from the pine trees, and I just don't know if you have pine trees like we do. So go ahead and get these set. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Oh, yes, ma'am. Everything is greenish yellow. Yes. I know the feeling. We're going through it too. Okay. So we're going to get these rivets set, and we'll be moving right along. Sheila, I have been as a tourist. Yeah, we're kind of doing both. We're doing the work stuff, and then we're going to do some sightseeing as well. Okay, that's a good question, Caroline. Why do I not put the deckable before the straps? The reason why is because I want to put the end of the strap in the bottom, and I have to put the strap on before I put the bottom on. And the deckable goes past, if you see here, it goes past the side onto the bottom, because the bag actually, part of the bottom comes up to form the front and the back on this bag. So you have to actually sew those straps on first. Because like you, I would prefer to do it with the Deca-Bill on there, but it's not possible with this one. Okay. So see, Caroline, how that forms, that bottom comes up and forms part of the front. So this piece of Deca-Bill has to go on after you sew this bottom on. And the bottom has to go on after you sew the straps on. Okay, so I'm going to find the center of the bottom just to kind of help me make sure everything's lined up. I did find the center of the bottom here before, on the actual bottom of the bag, before I put the Deca-Bill on, because I wanted to make sure when I put this piece of Deca-Bill heavy on that I put it right in the center. So I marked the center of the Deca-Bill heavy and the center of the bottom of the bag, and then just stuck that on. I did that on my heat press. Okay, so from here, if you want feet, you're going to put your feet on. Otherwise, we are going to go ahead and line up the side. So you have a little angle here on the main part of the bag, and you also have an angle on the side piece. You're just going to kind of line up those angles. And then go ahead and clip on down. And you're going all the way. And actually, let's do this. I'm sorry. Let's do this a little bit different. Let's sew the bottom on first. I think that's what the pattern says. So let's follow the pattern. So let's go ahead and center the bottom with the bottom of the bag here. And what we're going to do is sew in between the Deca-Bill, or in from this point of the Deca-Bill to this point of the Deca-Bill, okay? So right in between these little square cutouts that we have, we're going to sew from point to point. Thank you. You are teaching me so much. Well, good. That is my goal. Y'all, this is my passion, and I want so much to share that with you. And I want you to try and make these bags and enjoy it as much as I do. And be successful at it. Okay. So now that's sewn on. We're going to do the other side. Go ahead and clip. And I encourage y'all to ask questions, and not only on lives, but also email me, chris@simplyclassic.net. If for some reason, sometimes I see things come up on maybe Instagram, or I don't even know. And I see it, and then when I go back to find it to answer, I can't find it again. So for some reason I don't answer you, ask again. It's not because I didn't mean to or not want to answer you. Sometimes I'm, I guess, maybe challenged a little bit when it comes to technology. There's a lot to all of this. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and match up these two edges, these two kind of angle edges. Clip. And then we're going to clip all the way down. Now, because you have little cutouts here, you're going to need to clip your bag. So this is going to be on the bottom piece, right where you have this little cutout, right? This little square cutout. We're going to cut the bottom of the bag right along that same line. So right where you stitched to. Okay, so right just like that. And by doing that, it's going to allow this front back piece to turn. If you don't clip that, you're asking fabric to do something it doesn't want to do, which is turn. Doesn't do that, right? It goes in a straight line. So by clipping, you're making a little relief cut there to allow that fabric to do what it wants or what you want it to do. And then we're just going to clip all the way up. So Mandy says, I've made your DB crossbody bag. I learned so much from that video too. Oh, great. Thank you very much. And that is actually going to be turning into a written pattern. I know that some of you like the videos better, and that's fine. We're always going to have videos. But I have been asked about a written pattern. So I'm actually turning all of my cutting chart and video tutorial bags into actual patterns, written patterns. I should have all that done by the end of the year, hopefully by the end of the summer if I'm lucky. Okay, so see how nicely that fit together just by making that cut right there. And then what that's going to allow us to do is as we stitch, we're going to start up here or down here, it doesn't matter either way. And we're going to be able to stitch right off the edge and we're going to get a nice crisp corner here. If we start at this edge, we're going to start right there, right at that corner, and we're going to be able to just stitch right up without this bottom piece getting in the way. Okay. So let me clip this side. I'm just clipping right where you sewed. And then we're going to go ahead and clip the rest of the bag. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stitch this on. All right, this is going to be a little hard to see, I know, but try to get through it here. So I'm starting right at the edge there. Do not sew on your decoville now, sew next to it. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm actually going to just kind of move this bottom down and I'm going to stitch right off this edge. All right, we're going to do exactly the same thing with the other side. So go ahead and clip. It might be easier to show you this way. So I'm just going to clip right along these edges, right where those sides are for the side of the bag. See if I can do this without cutting something I'm not supposed to. I'm going to show you. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Put this on. Same thing with the other side. Stick my handles in there. I really like doing handles this way because you have absolutely no raw edges anywhere. But you have your handles to contend with as you sew, which isn't a bad thing. You just need to be aware of where they are. Okay, so let's stitch it on. I'm sorry, I know you cannot see this. It's the bad thing about lives. I only have one camera. Love the bag the way the sides are sewn in, no curves. Yes, that is true. There's no curves in this one. Yeah, it kind of has a curvy look, even though there's no curves. Because of the angles, it kind of has a feminine shape to it, especially when you do those sides with black. It makes it look skinnier, right? Just like when we wear our clothes. All right. I'm going to kind of fold this down and stitch right off the edge. Make sure all that looks good. All right, I'm going to cut the seam allowances back. I want to make sure that all my corners match before I do that. And like it looks like on this one, I could have gotten just a little bit closer. So what I'm going to do is just stitch again. Stitch from the opposite side. So what I'm doing is just making sure that basically where I stopped and started stitching in these corners matches up so that when I turn the bag, I don't have any holes. Okay. And if you're not sure, stitch again. It's not going to hurt. You don't necessarily have to take stuff apart. I mean, unless it's just stitched totally wrong. But I like to double check and triple check and just make sure. I want to get a little bit closer on this one too. I think it's okay. Let's see. That might be okay. All right. So we're going to cut back these seam allowances about in half. And don't necessarily cut all the way to the top, because when you sew your upper lining onto your top, you're going to need to open these seam allowances. And if you cut all the way, it's going to be difficult to open them. So leave usually about where my upper lining stops, or my side accent piece stops. That's about where I stop cutting my seam allowance. I'm going to cut the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this side. Okay, do the same thing over here. And then we are going to turn the bag and start our lining. All right, let's turn it around. Okay, and got some good corners there. Yep, good corners there. All right, so I'm going to have to obviously iron this, but that is what we're going to look like. Okay, so the lining is done exactly the same way as the main Fairhaven bag. So, I mean, I can go ahead and start going through the lining if you want. It's up to you. Or we can call it a night. We've already been on here an hour. But I mostly want to show you how to do those handles. And actually, you could, it would be kind of neat to put rivets, more rivets on here. I'd probably go down with them. I wouldn't go up any further. But, maybe put them every so many inches. That would kind of give it a neat look. Especially if you had some decorative rivets. That would be really pretty. So, again, this is the peach colored. And then there's also, and it's not really, I mean, it is peach. It's kind of like a pinky peach. And then there's also a black and hot pink, and then a black and white. And that black and white is just stunning. It is so pretty. It is so, so pretty. Okay. So you want to continue on, call it a night? You tell me. I'm going to. But when you look at this Fairhaven and you look at this Fairhaven, you can kind of see the difference. Obviously, this one has no, sorry, I'm trying to get this in the camera. This one has no straps. And one thing I will say is I thought about doing those straps on this one. It was really almost impossible to make it look good putting the straps at an angle with this pattern, because the pattern is straight up and down on this snake, but the straps would not be straight up and down. So it made everything look crooked. So if you're planning on doing it with some kind of snake, crocodile, something like that print, you probably want to do it the traditional way where you just stick the handles in the top like we have here, because otherwise it's not going to look right. If you've got kind of an all over pattern like you have here, where there's really no straight lines in the pattern, it's just kind of an all over print, that's when you're going to want to go ahead and do straps like this. Okay. Where do I find the Fairhaven pattern? So simplyclassic.net is the website. I will link it below once we're done. I'm sorry. My computer started doing updates and I was trying to hurry up and get on. Of course, once you know when I went to go turn it on, it is the time it wanted to do the updates. So, all right, you say you want to keep going? Let's keep going. So I wasn't sure what color to do for lining. And I decided with this kind of light blue color. And the reason why is because peach and blue are opposite on the color wheel. So that means that they complement each other. So that's why I chose this. Now, this particular linen, I do not have this color on my website. This was part of my stash. But I do have that, and I never know what, is it Lunar Rock? I think it's called Lunar Rock or Lunar Moon on the website. And it's kind of a lighter gray color, and I think it would look really good with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put the zipper overlay on. Let me get it here. So I found the center of my lining. Here's my zipper overlay. I cut it before. Have my double-sided tape on the back. And I'm going to measure down from the center stick this on. And to find the center of my overlay, I normally just kind of fold this in half and pinch it. And I can see that pinch mark. And then just go ahead and lay it on. Make sure I'm straight all the way across. And now we're going to stitch on the outside of this zipper overlay. I've got to get a color wheel. Heard several designers mention using one. Yes, it really does help. I think. I mean, I think that sometimes you'll put colors together that you wouldn't normally think of putting together. Like, I don't know that I would have put these two colors together. But I think that makes a really neat lining for this. Okay, so I'm just going to go all the way around. I'm not going to back stitch. Oh, somehow I turned my machine off. Okay. And I think if you've watched before, you know the old the dot trick. So if you want to turn in exactly the same spot in each of your corners, you just put a small dot exactly where you want to turn. You can measure, and you can maybe like a 1/4 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch, probably 1/8 of an inch from each side, and put a little dot. And then as you stitch down, you know exactly where to turn, and then all of your corners will be in exactly the same spot. Then you got to trust your dot. You got to make sure you go in exactly the right spot. You can do that with pretty much anything. I like to do it on flaps. All right, and we're going to pull this through the back. You're welcome, Diana. You talk about the dot. Diana says, thank you for the tip. I'm assuming you talk about the dot tip. Sometimes it's the smallest things that can make such the biggest difference in sewing. All right, I'm going to put a little piece of double-sided tape on this. We're going to cut the center out. Don't cut your overlay. Put your scissors underneath. All right, and then we got a beautiful zipper overlay. Put some double-sided tape on our zipper. Hold it in place. And we'll get this thing centered and sewn in. Now, before I do that, I am actually going to take my small pocket and sew this on. I've been known to sew my pockets, my zipper pockets closed when I sew my second little slip pocket on. Yeah, it's not a good day when that happens. So I'm going to outsmart myself here and do this. Coming down about 5/8 of an inch. You can space it however. Leslie, I do all my zippers like this now. Thank you. You are very welcome. This is my favorite way to do zippers. I modify, if I am doing another pattern, I modify all my patterns that way. I think it gives it a much nicer, much more professional look. And I can never get those darn zipper like pieces of fabric, and I can never get the corners to do right. So I started doing it this way, and I just have not looked back. Do it this way all the time. So I'm not going to put any divider in this slip pocket, or yeah, I'm just going to, it's small, just going to do it all as one. Go over a little bit more. pins out. And now I will center my zipper in here. Sorry, I keep turning my light off too. All right, so I'm going to make sure my zipper is closing to the left. Although that's not a rule, that's just a suggestion. I'll get this thing centered. Okay, and then we're going to stitch around a small opening. Yes, Cheryl, no puckered corners when you do zipper pocket or zipper overlays. So make sure when you do this that your pocket's open when you sew. Otherwise, you'll sew your pocket closed. Pull my thread through. All right, there we go. Now, when we sew the pocket closed in the back, we are going to leave an opening because we're going to pull the bag through the bottom, and then we're going to use the opening in the zipper or the open zipper pocket to sew the bottom closed at the end. All right, I am going to burn this because I don't want double-sided tape on the back here. And then we're going to close this up. Now, when you do this, you're always going to have about an inch difference here. And that's okay. That means you did it right. So you just go ahead and cut that off. And then we're going to sew down each side only, leave the bottom open. So just turn it around, kind of peel this back because you have some double-sided tape there. Just pull that away and then just stitch down. Make sure you back stitch real good at the bottom because we're going to have a little bit of force on that as we sew our bottom. All right. Here we go. So let's take our other one. Here, I'm going to just got a little bit extra over here. Just cut that off. Hello from Colorado. Hello from Georgia. How are you? I hope you don't still have a lot of snow. We've been talking about snow and pollen. We got two Colorados, Rena and Vicky. Hello to you both. Okay, so we're going to take our larger slip pocket. We're going to center that. Put a couple of pins. And I am going to divide this one in half. Ouch. Make sure I'm even here. So I want to, actually, I think I'm going to put a pen pocket, and then I will leave the rest for like a cell phone or whatnot. And I usually make my pen pockets 2 inches. Oh, Rena says snow. Ooh. And then we have Florida. It is amazing when you start thinking about all of the different areas of this country, how big the country really is, and how we might be close, but we're still so far apart when it comes to weather and stuff. It's crazy. All right, let's sew this on. So Vicki, I'm sorry, Sandy, since you're in Florida, have you been to the So Magical in Orlando? And Vicki, this is a Consew 206 RB5 machine. I have had this machine for probably 15, no, let's see. It might be closer to 20 years. And do you know that they still sell these machines? The exact same machine. It has not changed at all. I have not always seemed to be working, Sandy says. Well, I'm going to be, I haven't signed up for it yet, but I'm going to be doing probably the So Magical in Orlando as well this year. I'll be doing, of course, Tennessee, Orlando. If you can make it, I would love to see y'all. So when I was in Texas, I went just as a patron in Texas. I met Karen, and I met Renata. It is so exciting to actually meet people. It's hard talking to a camera all the time sometimes. Sandy, retiring in April. Congratulations. I retired in October. It is so exciting. I have not looked back. I have not missed a beat. I am thrilled I'm tickled pink. I'm excited for you. It is fantastic. Finally get to do what I've been waiting my whole life to do. Sew every day. Okay, and create patterns. So I'm going to put some rivets in here just to kind of hold the corners of these pockets. I always feel like these pockets have a lot of wear and tear with going in and out. We tend to pull and twist, and so I'm just going to reinforce it. Thank you. More time to sew. Yes. And that's all I have been doing. So if you're going to put rivets in this, you probably should have done it first. Make sure you don't put a hole in your pocket. I may or may not have done that before. All of those things that happen to all of us. Trust me. All right. So let's stick these rivets in. Now, one thing I always do whenever I put rivets in linings is I save little pieces of Decaville Heavy. Got a ton of them. And I just reinforce it in the back. Just helps to make sure it's not going to pull through. Lou says, I was in Texas So Magical, only there on Friday. I'm south of Fort Worth and got to meet Renata and Jessica of So Many Creations. So I was there on Friday as well, actually. I'm sorry, I did not see you. We were just walking around though. We were checking things out, scoping out. Those Gaylord resorts are amazing. Oh my God. I felt like I was in a castle when we went to Texas. Put smaller ones in here. Those lanterns when you walked in on the, when you first walked in on the left, they were like outdoor kind of lanterns, but they were on the inside, and they were the entire length from floor to ceiling. They were huge. I was like, what in the world? They were amazing. Renata's a trip. She was so much fun. She's from Dallas. She owns Your Vinyl Source. And she has got more energy than most 30-year-olds I know. I mean, she is amazing. She loaded all her stuff in her booth, ran her booth, did all that on her own. I'm not going to tell you how old she told me she was, though. She might not like that. But I can tell you, she is very impressive. Yeah, we just went to the vendor exhibits too, Lou, and no, we were there for most of the morning, I would say. Then we had to get some lunch, and then we went out on the town. So just punching these rivets in, and look at how nice that looks, doesn't it? Give it just a little bit more professional look. I think so. I like that. Do that with all my bags. I kind of have gotten into a routine, lack of a better word, habit of doing the interiors of the bags pretty much all the same. If it's big enough for 2 slip pockets, I put 2. If not, I just do the one on one side. But I had a bag that had a smaller slip pocket underneath the zipper pocket. I can't remember if it was might have been a Dooney, or I can't remember exactly. But anyway, I really liked it. That and the key fob. Once you have those, you can't go back. They're awesome. Hello from Western Australia, where it's 10 a.m. sunny, 23 degrees, heading to 30 today. Wow. My neighbor just got back from Australia. I don't know where she went to visit, but she just told us that she was over there. She said it was fabulous. I thank you for watching. It is 9:10 Eastern time here in the U.S. So I guess it's tomorrow. So it is, today is, what day is today? Today's Monday. So it must be Tuesday for you, Susan. Lou said that Renata was thrilled to meet her. She has so much energy, doesn't she? That lady was just amazing. She was just, I enjoyed it. We visited with her for a while, and she was super nice. Okay, before we started, I did take the liberty of doing a key fob. Y'all have seen me do key fobs before. I usually just take a 1.25 inch piece of faux, fold it in half, stitch 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and then trim off 1/8 of an inch, just to get a nice even edge. And then I just put it on with a rivet. Make sure it about hits where the bottom of the bag is going to be. And I'm just going to baste that in. All right, let's get our upper lining pieces. Yes, slip a little slip pocket under the zipper pocket. And I found that personally, I use this for like receipts and maybe if I had some coupons or something, business cards is what I use this pocket for, because it was shallower. It was easier to get in and wider. It was easier to get in and out of for those things, where the longer slip pocket like this was better for my cell phone and things that I didn't have to reach way down in to get. So just a thought as you're making your bags. It's amazing how you don't realize what you are missing until you have it, and then you think, oh, I don't want to be without this. Now, the pattern calls for Decoville light on this upper lining piece. Because I am using Decoville heavy throughout the bag, and because I am doing the straps differently, where in this bag, the straps are actually in between the upper lining and the main part of the bag. Since I'm not doing it that way, I went ahead and skipped the Decoville on this. So we'll see how that works. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clip this one on too. And I'll tell you the other thing that I think really kind of brings your bags to a different level is using the linen for lining. That's just a personal preference thing for me, but I've tried to go back to cotton and use cotton once in a while, and it just doesn't have the same feel to me. I don't know. One of those things. Okay, from here, you want to keep your seam allowance going towards the upper lining. We're going to fold this over and we're just going to top stitch right on top. Now, when I top stitch like this, I want to kind of tell you that I'm actually I'm not like pulling hard, but I'm kind of tugging on these two, the bottom piece and this top piece, just enough to kind of get it taut. It's harder sometimes, I think, if you keep your hands here and try to do that than if you kind of just tug slightly from the top and bottom. So give that a try. And it will open up the seam real nice for you. Uh-oh. Ow, man. Ran out of bobbin. Darn it. Well, top stitching too. Wouldn't you know it? So the blue lining is linen. Yes, it is. And I get the linen that I carry from, there's one of 3 mills in Europe that it comes from. It's 100% pure linen. I burned it to test it, and it is pure linen. It is amazing. It comes in different weights, but I usually get kind of a mid-weight to use for linings, and that's, I don't kind of how I sell it. I don't really get into all that with y'all. I'll just sell what I think is the best for the lining. And I think I have 5 colors right now. And it is sold by the yard. It's 60 inches long, it's 60 inches wide, and I sell the full 36-inch yard. Okay. One done. I can never hit holes again. I know. Well, I think I got lucky on that one. It doesn't always work. I'm going to get another bobbin started because I have a feeling I'm going to run out again. I do not have a full one on there. Cheryl says, I'd love to stick with one lining type like your linen, and then I wouldn't have a closet full of fabric. Yes, I understand. But sometimes, we see the colors of the fabrics, and we can't help but buy, right? I mean, gosh, they're so cool. Fabric is so beautiful. So usually what I'll do is I'm going to leave this until I stitch the second time, and then I'm going to cut it off. Just kind of gives it another little bit of reinforcement there. Even though it's not going to have a lot of pull, it's still, people are going to be putting keys on it, so. There we go. So the only hardware besides the rivets that this bag uses, if you want a key fob, obviously you're going to have a key fob piece, but it closes with magnetic snaps. So we need to go ahead and mark where the magnetic snaps are going to go. And it is on the pattern piece when you buy the pattern as to where that is. I'm going to, since I don't have my pattern piece here, I'm just going to kind of wing it here. And because you typically have Decadil white on this back piece, on this upper lining, it kind of gives those magnetic snaps a little reinforcement. Since I don't have that, I am going to put some Decadil heavy on here before I put the snaps. Get some oil on here. You got me in the habit of doing key fobs in my bags. It is amazing to me how many people, once they have a key fob, they'll never go back. I mean, in these days, like my car, I just push a button to start the car, but the key stays in my purse on the key fob at all times, so that if I ever do have to pull it out, I don't have to dig in the bottom of my bag for that key. It's just on the key fob. I mean, it's fantastic. I love them too. Have you ever used waterproof canvas? Yes. And actually, the pattern that I have coming out in April, I suggest using waterproof canvas for that. And you guys will see why when that comes out. That's a secret. And the thing about waterproof canvas is you don't have to interface it, right? And it does almost have a, I don't want to say linen look, but it does have like a textured look. Waterproof canvas is nice. No doubt about it. Okay, so I need to go get my snaps because that's the one thing I forgot to get. So bear with me here 1 second while I run over here. Get my snaps, and I want to put my tag on. I'm terrible about forgetting my logo tag. So a lot of people like these. I'm going to tell you, Tasha St. James, this is a shop on Etsy. It's called Metal Things Hardware. Made these for me. And I've ordered from her twice now. Oh, sorry, that's a little focus. It's not focusing. Anyway, they're really nice. I love these. So Metal Things Art on Etsy. And I will link it below when the video's over. I'll go back and link some things. So before I forget, let me put this on. I should have put it on first. Let me measure. Put it about, say, an inch from the bottom. These are 6, 7, So 3.5. Okay. So one thing that comes in handy, my accounting comes in handy when I'm having to do math, right? As we're making bags. I always eyeball it and make sure it looks right. So you could put your logo either down here at the bottom, or you could go ahead and put it up here at the top, whichever you prefer. And then I actually like to use, I have 1-inch double-sided tape that I like to back this with. It kind of gives it, the glue on the double-sided tape kind of holds it in too. So if for some reason it ever wanted to come out, you would have a little more difficult time doing that. So I just stick that on the back. Okay. So that's done. Let's talk magnetic snaps. In the pattern, it does say to put 1 magnetic snap. I have found, after doing this a few hundred times, that I like 2 magnetic snaps better. So I'm just going to find the center here, make a notch, which you saw me do. And I'm going to go 1.5 inches up from the bottom. Bottom meaning where the upper and lower lining meet, this seam right here. I'm going to go up 1/2 inch. And I'm going to, let's see. From the center, this is 3 inches this way, and then 3 inches the other way. Okay, so let me say that again because I think so from your center mark, you're going to go over 3 inches each direction. You're going to come up 1.5 inches from the bottom, and you're going to make a mark, and that's where we're going to put our magnetic snaps. So I'm going to measure the same thing on the other side. Other side being the other piece. I want to measure it from the front though. Okay, so center, 3 inches, 1.5 inches. So if you want to deviate from the pattern and put 2, that's how I suggest you stick them in. Xfinity is lagging, which means you are going to be dropped because my Wi-Fi is gone again. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'll tell you, technology is great when it works, but when it doesn't, boy. Whew. Well, we will probably still be here for a little bit, so not too long, but another 15 minutes maybe. I'm sorry, I should have had all this ready before. Try to think of everything. Okay, magnetic snaps. Just gonna put the hole over the dot, make your lines for the washer. 2 little side lines here. Do the same thing on this piece. I'm going to do the same thing on my Decoville. Cut our holes. All I basically am doing here is putting the very tip of this in and almost pulling the fabric up into the knife instead of vice versa. I think it gives me a little more control. And of course, these are the craft knives that I sell. It's the Zoid. They're great. I really like them. Oops. All right, so make sure you get the female sides together and the male sides together. Stick these on. Stick our washers on. Bend this back. All right, let me get my other piece. Cheryl asks if a recessed zipper could be added. Absolutely. And I've actually thought about doing an add-on for this for a zipper because I know a lot of people like a zipper to get the measurements and all for you. Because the bag does close together, okay? So see how it kind of sandwiches here? And it's supposed to do that because you want these sides to flare out like this. So your recessed zipper really wouldn't be super wide necessarily. And what I mean by that is you don't want the zipper to be as wide as the bottom of the bag. So I was thinking about experimenting with some different lengths there. And of course it needs to be pretty wide too. So if y'all are interested in that, I can certainly do that and just have a little add-on for this. And then that way you could choose either the zipper or the magnets. Y'all are sports for hanging in there. We're going on 2 hours, but we're almost done. I appreciate you all watching very much. Okay, so we're going to snap these together. I am going to put some double-sided tape on these as well. Then we're going to sew the sides, and then we're going to put this bag together. Sandy says, appreciate your time. You're very welcome. And Cheryl says, yes, on the zipper overlay. Okay, I will work on that when we get back from Italy. Get that to y'all. All right, everything is all lined up, looking good. Make sure, and I'm going to cut a little bit of bulk out of here. Just kind of stick your scissors behind this seam and cut that out. It just kind of helps with the bulk there. And make sure that these match. And then, like I always do with these, you've got a pair of scissors for this, is that's where I'm going to start sewing. There's nothing that says you have to start sewing at the top or at the bottom. You can start sewing wherever you want. I have a little bit of extra upper zipper here. It's not upper zipper, upper lining sticking out. I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off. I must have cut that a little bit wrong. Oh, thank you very much, Lou. It says she's saying it's worth it for your clarity and instruction. So I'm kind of had to maneuver this just a little bit to make sure that these two matched up. That's so important. Match them up. Okay. And then clip the rest. All right, so I'm going to stick my needle in right here, right where those two match. That's where I'm going to start. And once my needle's in there, I can remove the clip because now it can't shift. I'm going to back up to the top and then I'm going to sew down. Make sure you back stitch really good here at the end. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to turn this on the other direction, and then I'm going to do exactly the same thing as far as where I start. Stick my needle in right there. Back stitch real good. Ilona says, there's always something about watching someone sew and create with joy and the attention to detail instead of racing to finish with no care and attention. Well, thank you. I do think that there's a difference between homemade and handmade. Okay, and there is our lining, and I'll let y'all inspect me. Looks good. Now, a little secret or something you can do is if you open this up, you can, to help keep that seam open, because that's going to be the place where it's hard to keep open, right? Is right here in this area, because that's where the bulk is. So what I do sometimes is I will open it up and on my upper lining, right where my stitches are, I'm just going to go ahead and do a little stitch and back stitch, just about 3 or 4 stitches. And what that's going to do is it's going to hold this open. Even after the bag is put together, it will always be open, so you're not going to get as big of a, what do you call it, bump there. You know, sometimes it kind of bumps out. So just trying to get like right on the same stitches. And with it being black, obviously it helps because you really can't see it. Just a little back and forth. So you see in the back now, see how that's holding it down? And then in the front, I'm going to try to bring it in close. You cannot tell that that's there. Okay. So that just, again, little trick. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now my seams are open. And what I'm probably going to do is, since my iron is right here beside me, let me get it dancing. I'm just going to press this seam open right here. And I can kind of finger press it, but since my iron is here, I'm just going to flip it over the ironing board and just press that down and press this one down as well. Years ago, I was watching, it might have been something like Project Runway or something. And I believe it was Isaac Mizrahi was one of the judges. And one of the contestants said, when I wrote you a letter one time and I asked you what makes the difference between a garment making homemade versus professional. And he said, this contestant said that he wrote him back and he said, an iron. And when this contestant told Isaac Mizrahi that, Isaac said, oh, yes, I do say that. I say that all the time. And it's the truth. Taking the time to press and to make sure that you have a good quality product makes a huge difference. Now, we're human, right? Nothing is ever going to be 100% perfect. I mean, y'all can look at my bags and I can promise you can find things that are not exactly right. I'm by no means trying to say that I am. Stuff happens, right? I mean, machines get stitches or threads get bunched up. I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes. But where you can make a difference and take an extra few seconds, I think you need to. Just like that. Okay? So now it's all nice and pressed open. Okay. Oh, yes, I keep my iron right beside me when I sew, says Leslie. Yes, I agree. Okay, here we go. This is the fun part. So we're going to take the bag and we're going to stick it inside the lining. And actually, when I was at, I went to SoCon in Atlanta, last week, I guess it was the week before. And that, what is it? Oliso iron, they were there. And I had tried to buy one of those little mini irons from them before and they ran out, but they were there and they had them. So I bought one. So I use that to iron the inside of the bags once I turn them. Okay, so actually, I needed to find the side of these, or the center of these sides. So let me do that. I'm just going to go ahead and, because that's where our side seam is going to match up. So the neat thing about this bag is that none of the seams match each other when you go to sew all this together. So it helps reduce bulk. Because the side seams are against the side here, which is not a seam. And then these seams on the front of the bag, there's no seam on the lining. So it all works out really well. Because as we know, bulk can wreak havoc. All right, so I'm going to clip. You know I like drop-in linings a lot. I do those often. But for this bag, I do not suggest it. And the reason why is because of the curved edge. There is a little bit of a curve on that edge, and it's harder to do a drop-in lining when there's a curved edge. Okay. I'll try to do this so you can see it. Here, I'm going to zoom you out for this part. I think that'll help. Okay. Let's match up these centers at the front and back. Make sure you put your handles on the inside. That would not have been pretty. Sandy says, love Project Runway. Is it even on anymore? I haven't seen it in so long. I guess it changed networks, right? It used to be on one of the local, like, not local, but I guess like NBC or ABC or CBS or one of those, and it changed. I'm about to get bounced off. All right, Leslie, have a good evening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking with us and watching. We appreciate you. Okay, so we're going to stitch this all together. And then we'll close up the bottom. And I do usually top stitch on my Texo, my other machine, so I probably will just top stitch afterwards. Sort of trying to move everything. Okay, so I'm just going to move this aside, and here we go. Well, I think here we go. Okay, so the handles, I need to make sure those are out of the way. Okay. So roll your bag as you go around here. And I know y'all can't see this very well. I'm sorry. It was about. My clips are coming off. Okay. And I know you really can't see that. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can smush this down so you can see what I'm doing. All right, y'all, I'm almost done. All right. Sorry, I know that was terrible camera angles. All right, so I'm going to trim back, make sure my seams are looking good and even. And then wherever there's a curve, I'm going to cut into the bag a little bit. Cut into the seam allowance, not into the bag. Just to kind of help that curve lay a little flatter. I just put little snips. On the top, I don't tend to cut the seam allowance back as much because when I do my top stitching, it gives it a little more to hang on to. That's fair to say. But I will even it up if anything looks uneven. Right here, I'm a little uneven. So I think that on the handles, I would suggest maybe not stitching them quite as close to the top of the bag if you're going to do this. Maybe give yourself about 2 inches. Okay, let's pull it through. So I'm just going to go ahead and push these edges out here at the top. So there's a slight curve here. We want to make sure that that curve is kept looking good. And what I do is just kind of reach in here and run my finger along the seam to get it to kind of push out. Because I want the edge of the seam to be right at the top of the bag. Get this side and I can push this lining in. Yes, I would say for sure if you're going to do this, don't stitch your handles quite as close to the top of the bag. Give yourself about 2 inches from the top. I think that's going to give you a little more room there. When you go to top or stitch and top stitch, it'll be a little easier. All right, poke that out. And I think we are good to push this lining in. All right. So I'm just kind of rolling the lining or the upper lining to the back because I want to make sure that it rolls in good. I don't want to see it peeking out the front if I can help it. Isn't that pretty? Okay, the other thing I would say is don't skip the Decoville light on the upper lining. Go ahead and put that on there. All right, let's close up the bag. So open up your zipper. Pull your pocket lining out. And then reach in and grab the two bottoms of the bag. So you're grabbing the bottom part of both lining pieces. And let's pull those out. Pulling them out the pocket. Okay, we're going to match them up. Then we're going to sew this, and then we're going to box the corners. So it's kind of scrunched up, as you can see. So as I sew, I'm just going to kind of smooth it out. So I'm going to start here. You can see I'm just going to kind of pull it. Pull it like this. I'll stitch, and then I'll pull the next section and stitch, and then I'll pull the last section and stitch. Okay. Make sure everything matches up. Pull my next section. And then the last little bit. Okay, so everything's sewn up. I'm now going to take the side I'm going to match my bottom seam with the side seam. Now I press my side seam open, so I'm going to go ahead and open that. This bottom one, I'm just going to put in one direction so that it lays flat. Okay, so this. Now the lining seam, or the kind of grade built into it, the pattern does, so you do not have to take a larger seam allowance when you sew your lining. Okay, so this is what we have. Here's your back part. Okay, and there's the front. I'm just going to trim this back a little bit. I'm going to box the other corner. Now, when you box this corner, make sure you put your bottom seam in the same direction. So see, it's going down in this direction, or on this side. So I want to make sure I have it facing down on this side as well. So just make sure you open it up real good. I want this facing down. This one open. You're welcome, everybody. Rena's back, yay. Okay, so I'm going to stitch this. I'm going to see if I can get like 2 cameras on live, because I know y'all can't see this. All right. this down. Stuff it back into the bag. I'm going to make sure it all looks good. Let's see if y'all can see that. So it needs to be pressed, but see how nice these corners fit in here? It's a perfect fit. So now on the pocket, now I'm going to tell you, I typically would have top stitched this before I did all this, just to make sure my top stitching, I didn't have any problems and need to take anything out. So I'm going to open up the seam allowance and just fold this in on the sides. And you could certainly press this ahead of time. Somehow I've never gotten into the habit of doing that. Probably makes it a lot easier. And then we're going to stitch this closed, and then we will be done. So when I take this stitch, I just usually try to use like a scant 1/8 of an inch, just enough to hold it close. All right, and there we have a different looking Fairhaven. Stick this in. You are welcome, Linda. I'm just thanking you for doing lives. Cheryl, your lining is beautiful. Thank you. I'm telling you, linen, it's a ticket. Close this up. And ta-da! Okay, so we've got the Fairhaven with straps. It's kind of a neat look. We have the Fairhaven without the straps. And then we have the Fairhaven with the weave panel. So same pattern, 3 different looks. The original weave front, solid front, and then the solid front with the addition of the full strap connectors. Okay, so thank you all very, very much for joining me this evening. It was fun. I always love interacting with everyone. All right. And so I'm off to Italy next week. Wish me luck. And when I get back, I am going to try to video as much as they'll let me in the tanneries. We'll see what happens there. But I will post videos when I get back. And then, of course, we have a new pattern coming out in April. So until next time, happy sewing, everybody. Good night.